better well-being.
This is your co-host, Dr. Ning.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining us. I am joined today by Madeline Long. She is a longtime friend and a powerful advocate for women. She is a former breast cancer survivor herself and has impacted countless lives across both the Washington, D.C., St. Louis, and really national health communities. So Madeline, thank you so much for joining us today. Love to hear.
I want to share something, Dr. Ning. One of the things that I have tried to share with researchers, one of my favorite books is called The Speed of Trust. And I had to read that when I became a fellow through the Johns Hopkins program with the CDC. I try to say to the researchers, and I've said this to American Cancer Society as well, one of the reasons it's so hard to get people to participate, don't show up in the community when you need the information. Create the partnerships. If you know that you're going to do this study, why not start 6 months, 8 months before, doing little things in the community so that they know the face, they have that familiarity where I'll share this with you. Rachel probably doesn't even know that she did this. We were doing a health and wellness event in an all African American community. And I reached out to Rachel to ask her if she would help with it. If Rachel were to come back to that community, they would trust her over someone else because she was there. You know, she's a gymnast. You guys may not know this, but she's a gymnast. So she was flipping and she was over there and she was dancing but guess what? They have a comfort with her now. That's where the medical community, that's where the research community is failing miserably. Don't show up when you need the data. And it's not like you guys don't know that you're going to do this. That's planning. You know that you're going after this study. In that study, there should be something set aside for, we're going to do this study. So we know that we need to be in that community 6 to 8 months before we ever start asking for anything. If you do that, you're going to get what you want because they know you. And that's where I think that's what the research community is failing.
Yeah, 100%. It's about developing trust. It's about people knowing that your intentions are good. Okay. It's about knowing that it's about knowing why, what's your why, right? And so if your goal is to potentially advocate for life-saving therapies, show me your credentials, show me your experience, show me that you care about me and that you have my best interest in mind, or I don't want to work with you. So I think Madeline, what you're saying about, developing trust and really, helping people understand that being a part of a study will lead to, greater data, but ultimately it will lead to helping these research teams figure out the therapies that do work, right? And so it's so important to be able to demonstrate efficacy, to be able to demonstrate trust, and to drive better outcomes by really, having a partnership, right? Partnership is so key in healthcare. And I think that, unfortunately, big pharma and device companies do have a bad reputation because they are coming in without trust. And so what do you think are some practical ways, how does one, as a person who is at risk, my dad died of stomach cancer, my grandma had a double mastectomy, guidelines say that I should be screened. So how do I do it? Like, what do I do? What is the process? I'll be honest, my primary care doctor has done nothing. Nothing.
And you know what? That is, that's huge because I had to teach my daughter how to get her doctor. Now you have a mom, a grandmother, and an aunt that was diagnosed, and they still were like, well, you're too young to get cancer. So I said, Chanel, this is what you do. You send something, you ask the doctor, are you willing to put it in writing that you don't think that I will get cancer? And so you don't want me to you don't want to create a protocol. No one wants a paper trail. So the moment, and it has worked, I'm telling you, I do this with when I had my support group, because a lot of the women couldn't get certain things. I said, tell them, can you put that in writing? Can you say that I can't have so-and-so because, and the moment magically, right after that, the nurse or someone will call and say, Dr. So-and-so wants you to have such and such test. I said, oh, isn't that a miracle? You're going to have to make your primary care doctor feel like it's on them. Malpractice is huge. So if you make them accountable, are you okay, Dr. So-and-so, are you telling me that you don't want me to have a mammogram? When my dad passed from cancer, my grandmother had a double mastectomy. I just want to be clear because I want to make sure I have this. And I always send my survivors and my daughter in with the notebook. I said, with the little pad, I said, even if you're not writing anything on it, always look like you're writing. Because at this point now you're documenting something, and that could be brought into court. Mm. They don't like that. And all of a sudden, and I've been doing this for 20 some years, it works magically.
I mean, how sad is that though? Like that it's gotten to that point where instead of doing what's in your best interest from a healthcare perspective, what do you think is the reason for the hesitation in ordering the test? What is this all about? Is it money? Is it, they believe that their opinion is, they're fully aware of all the probabilities? What are your thoughts on what has gotten us to this point where, it sounds like there's a good bit of bias going on as it relates to who is getting treatment?
But I also think that it's not just on the doctors, it's on the insurance, when it comes to, they don't want to pay for it. So what they'll say is they'll try to use the guidelines, where the guidelines say, so you have to have, sometimes you have that doctor that says, I don't really care what the guidelines say. If Rachel's dad and grandmother has X, Y, and Z, and then they have to write it in such a way. Like I've been with doctors that'll say, so does it really hurt? You hurt right there, don't you? It hurts right there. When I push down, that hurts. That gets the test that you need taken. The other part about it, and that is sad, but the other thing is I think that some doctors, and we don't, Dr. Ning, we don't have enough of you. That are looking at that you want to improve health outcomes. Some doctors, even though they're supposed to be there for such and such reason, all doctors are not there. Some doctors are there because it says the doctors make X, Y, and Z, and that's why they're there. It becomes a dollar and cents. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the money. It's what I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the payer plays a big role in medical decision in this country, unfortunately, right? A lot of times it's not really based on the patient's needs. It's based on what the payers are willing to pay. So Rachel, you work in medical device industry, so you probably experienced that firsthand too. And as a patient, like just give you an example, last year when I did my wellness checkup, I happened to had acute condition at that time. So when I had the wellness checkup, I also mentioned that actually my leg has been hurting during the past 2 months. And then guess what? After I mentioned that, they coded that visit as a regular visit instead of a wellness visit. So I got bills for that visit. I got bills for all the lab tests he ordered, which should be part of the wellness checkup. You know, it's supposed to be free to me. So yeah, this year I was really, like I said, what I'm supposed to talk to you about, right? When we do wellness checkup, I'm supposed to share all my health concerns with you, right? But the doctor, it was not his fault either. He was just documenting what I was telling him. And then the coder at the behind the scene coded it as that because certain codes triggered something,
That's right.
like that whole system, you have to really understand how it works in order to navigate through. And then if you're with a managed care, right, like they are your payer and also your doctor, so like they have to balance, right? And then another thing is that for doctors, right, some places and Rachel, you had first-hand experience with your dad, right? Your dad was really patient with his patient, but the right, if they spend an hour with a patient, then they end up with less profit, right? So how to strike that balance? You do take care of patients' needs and also make sure that you don't lose money either. So like, yeah, a lot of times we have to be our own advocate, do the research. Now you have ChatGPT, AI and stuff. You can get a bunch of useful information there. And then do talk to friends. And if you know Madeline Long, you're lucky. Like, you know an advocate. You can get advice. But otherwise, try to talk. And every one of us knows someone who is in the clinical field, right? Like, don't hesitate to ask. And and it was just surprising to hear that your daughter's doctor say that, oh, you're too young to have.
Oh, you can't get breast cancer.
Now you have people, and I just, like our primary school teacher, 27-year-old passed away from influenza 2 weeks ago. And I have another talented scientist who my friend worked with before I passed away at 34-year-old from ovarian cancer. Now, and my own college best friend passed away at 31-year-old from stomach cancer. Young people do get cancer. Nowadays, they even get stroke. They even get cardiovascular disease. So, yeah. And then the doctors are just based on, I'm not saying doctors are bad or anything. We need them, and we just need the healthcare community to be aware of patients' needs and know that, there's difference in each patient and in each racial ethnic group, in each special patient group. Like they need to be aware of the difference and then make the appropriate diagnosis following the appropriate guidelines for that. So all the things you talk about are just so important for the researchers, for the healthcare providers to understand. And I want to know, as a researcher myself, and I can't agree with you more about like building the trust with your target population, research population. We call it, target population. But I have a question, like, what advice do you have for the research communities to build that trust communities?
I think that creating the partnerships, because you know that you're going to, even if it's, you said asthma, it could be cancer, it could be a list of different things that you're going to do the study on, but the partnership is still the partnership. And so you want to start to reach out to those organizations or those consultants that have those relationships in the community, not just around the study, but just have that partnership. The partnership is the most important thing, because that person will spend time with the company, with Big Pharma, whomever, and then they take that information back. Think about what I said earlier. Komen created a group called Advocates in Science. that group, we would just come together all the time. And we were sitting with a room of scientists, researchers. And, and you guys would tell us everything that was happening. This was a new breakthrough. This is a hurdle. This is something. It was our job as advocates in science, and you had to be able to go through extensive training to be an advocate in science, because you had to understand the science to be able to take it back to the community. But we met all the time, and they would bring us together. Sometimes it was, we need you guys to go out and do something. Then there were times when they said, we just need to be able to talk to you and find out from you what's going on in the community. So we were their eyes and ears in the community. Now, I'll tell you, for me, I think that was great, but what I thought could have happened, if the organization has a relationship with a Pfizer, with an Eli Lilly or whatever, why not make sure that there's a budget in place? Because that information is priceless. And so you get these advocates to come in, and Rachel has gotten on me about this for years. She was like, you little girl, you sister friend need to be paid for what you're doing. Do you understand that you're taking information back to these organizations or to these companies that they would never get?
Yeah.
He's the reason I had to say no to a lot of different assignments, because it wasn't showing value to me. And so if the company know that you're going to get, this study, write that in, even if it's a small budget, that's a part of the larger budget, because you know how priceless that data is going to be. So why make sure that those funds are available to, when these people are going out, what would normally happen is like, oh, we'll give you a gift card and we'll take care of your lunch. But you're going to use that data, which will translate into millions of dollars.
Yeah, 100%.
Value the people that are going into your communities as the eyes and ears.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think, some of the groups across healthcare that I think have done a really fantastic job alongside Komen, but I have worked with the Amputee Coalition, and they have done a fantastic job of really understanding, sort of the care continuum. They have about 1,000 people that are very regularly, actively engaged in their communities. The other one the other group that I've worked with is the American Association of Kidney Patients, and Richard Knight and the team over there, they bring together live the folks that are at risk of having kidney disease and folks that are on dialysis sort of multiple times a year. And they embody, what does a partnership look like? So it's, it's live meetings. They have advocacy groups. It goes beyond, hey, we're here to develop a drug and make millions of dollars off of it. It is, what does your daily life look like? Tell me what your challenges are. Who supports you? How do we support the people that support you? And how do we bring together voices just so that we can understand your challenges, so that we can develop solutions to your challenges? I feel like, specifically in the breast cancer space, like, Madeline, you haven't talked a whole lot about SOCI, but, can you tell, this group and Ning about SOCI and, some of the other groups that, Madeline, Ning, you don't know this yet, but Madeline formed a very large breast cancer support group in Prince George's County. I don't even know where to start, but Madeline, you want to tell the group a little bit about that?
So we expanded a little, Rachel, after COVID. But this is when you know someone has history, because she even knows SOCI. No people don't even know SOCI. But we started in the breast health space, and you heard me say breast health and not breast cancer, because we really wanted to work on preventative care. So when we had in Supporting Our Sisters International, that was all around breast health. But after COVID, we were asked to expand a little. So we were asked to work with seniors around ending isolation. And we were also asked to help with addressing food insecurity. So we grew, and I decided to fold SOCI into a larger organization called Mad Connect Foundation. So what we do is we're providing support in all of those different areas. But what Rachel is speaking about in terms of the breast health space, we had one of the largest, before COVID, we had one of the largest support groups in this area. We have reached over 20,000 women. We had several programs around health and wellness, programs around a program called Bosom Buddy, because it's important to the women that have been through the journey. They make for very good peer support. And so we had those women to help with the women that were newly diagnosed. And then we also provide support to the women that were metastatic. And so the breast health, even though we were focused on increasing screening and, navigating women through, but we didn't want to leave out that woman who has metastatic breast cancer, because a lot of the women would say there's no love for us. I had a young woman, she was diagnosed. I was hired by a company to help this young lady. She was diagnosed at 14 first. Then it came back when she was 25, I believe. And when they called me, it's because she had a discharge of blood coming from her breast, from her nipple. And she was refusing to go in. When they had me to start working with her, she said she never told them that she was diagnosed, this was for recurrence. What she said was the reason she didn't want to share was a recurrence, because she said people newly diagnosed get more attention than people that have a recurrence. That was heartbreaking. Because she said, I didn't want them to push me aside. So she felt she got close enough to me. Now I call her my goddaughter. But she got close enough to me that she felt like she could tell me the truth, that she did. And she recently had another breast cancer scare. And so the women who are, what we try to do through Supporting Our Sisters International, through making a Mad Connect Foundation, which stands for, I know you think it's MAD because it's Madeline, but it's not. It's Making a Difference Connection. And so what we try to do is we try to make sure that we're getting women the help they needed. And I wanted to go back to something when Rachel, when you asked that question about why doctors aren't listening, there's another issue that I think we as women go through. They don't listen to us. There are a lot of times that women go in and they go, you're just making too much out of it. When my daughter had my granddaughter, my second granddaughter, I'm sitting in the room with her and she kept saying she had just delivered the baby. She said, something's not right. And the nurse was like, okay, Mom, this happens all the time. Just calm down. She's like, something is not right. I'm holding her baby. The nurse comes in, takes the baby out of my arm. Mom, I know you want to be close, but we want the mom to bond. My daughter kept saying, Mommy, something's not right. I walked over to the bed. If I looked down before I pulled the sheet back, and blood dropped off the bed. When she said something wasn't right, she was bleeding. They never listened to, if I wasn't sitting there, my daughter would have bled to death. They have to listen to us. And she had a blood clot that was lodged in the top of her belly. And I don't know, they tried to explain how the body kept trying to look, and long and short, she was hemorrhaging. And she would have bled out.
Yeah, it gets to that question again, that we used to say that like every family should have someone in the medical field, be the advocate, be the screener for your family member, especially when you are hospitalized in a hospital setting. And a lot of things can go wrong. And each year, more than 200,000 patients die from medical errors in this country. And a lot of them are preventable. And it's just, I'm just so glad that you were there with her, so that those early signs were recognized. It's definitely like a pain that a lot of people have to go through, but you do not need to have to, right? Like if you're not familiar with the healthcare system or medicine, find someone who knows about it. Be your advocate. So that may save your life sometimes. It's I know that we are at the hour, but I feel like we need to have a series of talks with them. This is just the beginning. Like, this is so helpful and insightful, Madeline. As a researcher, I thank you for all the work you do, and I feel I'm also inspired by the groundwork that you're doing, the foundation you established. So Rachel and I are also, that's our dream too, to get people real support that they need, So this podcast is just the beginning. So we definitely want to learn more about how we can help women in our community, or even broader in other communities.
And one of the things that I said I was going to do, and it's interesting that you guys said that, and maybe we'll do something together, but I really liked what they were doing so much that I said that was something I wanted to continue, and creating a way to have those partnerships with the companies that want access to our community, but also to work with the community to educate them before the researchers come in, so that, because that takes a minute, ladies, because the first thing you have a lot of hesitation. They're very angry, and they want to talk about something that they really never got a chance to talk about. When we talk about Tuskegee, they want to talk about how they felt about that. And some of them only have bits and pieces of it. So I would always say, tell me, what do you know about it? And I'll sit back, because I wanted them to tell me. Some of it was true, because how is that story where the person starts telling the story, the house, and then this. That's what happens with the Tuskegee story. And so when you heard me say earlier that researchers need to come in and address that right off just the beginning, and then let them tell you how they felt. And some of it is valid and some of it's not, but you at least have to address it. And so that's an area that I said I really want to spend some time in that space, because I know that if we're ever to get to the data where we can make a real difference, it's going to be because the researchers have created a better relationship with the communities that they're trying to go after.
100%. Yeah, I know I say 100%, but I think that I think that's spot on, right? It's about, acknowledging what is really going on, developing trust. And trust doesn't come overnight. Trust takes time. Trust takes decision making. Trust takes observing, right? You want to watch and observe to make sure somebody is safe, make sure a company is safe, make sure they're going to act in your best interest. And I think what you said about drawing people out, tell me your story. Where are you coming from? I want to get to know you. I want to know your story. Healthcare is very, very personal. And people need to understand that if you want to treat me, you want to be part of my care team, you need to know my story. People only care when they know that you care. So I think, we, again, as Ning said, want to thank you for hopping on with us. It feels like there's going to be a lot of questions and probably, follow up after this interview. So, thank you again. And any closing thoughts from both of you to close out the night?
Yeah, I want to thank Madeline again. When we do project, we definitely we make sure our participants get fair compensation, and I want to emphasize that in that regard, you guys who work on the ground and the front line could be the advocate for those patients, for those communities. I hope those companies, those sponsors can see the value to have long-term investment in the community, in patients' health, not just tap into them for profit. So, yeah.
And I just want to say, I don't know if you guys know, and you may, how important this is, especially for women. To have this kind of dialogue. Women want to talk, and they want to talk about it's so many things, but health and wellness means mind, body, and spirit. All of those things are important. And so I just want to thank you both for what you're doing, because I think this is just the beginning for you. There's a lot of folks that have approached me over the last year or so and just said they want to see more. They want us to utilize technology in a better way. And, I didn't talk about, the virtual care center, and that's because we don't launch until July the 11th. So I didn't want to put that out there. But I just think that you guys are utilizing technology in a great way, because we can reach so many more people this way. And I hope to be around to watch and see it grow, because this is just the beginning for both of you.
How do we help a broader community understand how to advocate for themselves? And I think that this is a great starting point. So thank you for sharing your experience with us. And we so appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madeline. And I feel like we're not only educating, the lay audience today, but also the healthcare community overall, including researchers, doctors, nurses. Everybody need to listen to Madeline.
Listen to Madeline.
So, Rachel always says that.
We really appreciate your time, and
you're more than welcome.
We can do another episode once your virtual center is launched, and then once we start doing some of the groundwork, we will definitely reach out. There's so much that we can learn from you.
Yeah.
God bless you both.
Thank you. And have a great Ladybug Tuesday.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Take care. Bye. Bye.